Well, welcome to Module 1. You've made it to the first substantive module in the class. This week is really introduction. It's going to introduce you to three things. It's going to talk about what politics is and how political scientists study politics. And in particular, it's going to focus on both the kind of theories they use and some of the methods that they employ. So the ways that they go about studying, and then the theories are their explanations for political behavior. It's going to introduce you to international relations, which is one of the subfields of political science. And it is a subfield that has it has its own kind of particular theories and sets of theories. In some parts of the world, it's actually treated as a separate discipline from political science. And this is really largely around the concept of anarchy. So anarchy refers to a situation in which politics occurs without government or without a central authority. You should know that anarchy does not mean the absence of rules or norms or patterns. It means the absence of authority. So it means zero. So anarchy means no authority, just like monarchy means one authority, or democracy is a reference to the demos, the people, the authority of the people. So anarchy does not mean absence of rules, it means absence of authority. So it's the politics that occur when there is no central authority, and there is no world government or central authority for the whole world to regulate the behavior of states. And so we think of international relations as the relations between or occur among actors with no central authority to regulate them. And that makes politics different than domestic politics, where the government and the courts act as referees. So that's the second thing that we're sort of focusing on. So introducing you to what politics is and how political scientists study politics. Introducing you to specifically the subfield of international relations, and then giving you, in the Jack Snyder One World Rival theories, a kind of window into the main theoretical traditions, focusing heavily on liberalism and realism, something that we're going to get into over the first few modules of the class. So this is something we're going to return to. What I really want you to do in reading the Jack Snyder piece is to really just think about what's your initial kind of reaction to those theoretical traditions, because you've actually been exposed to arguments from the different theories. And there's really three. He talks about radicalism. We'll split that up a little bit later on in the semester when we talk more about the difference between, say, Marxist or dependency theory on one hand, which we'll call radicalism, and in a more narrow sense, and constructivism, which is a kind of sociological approach to thinking about theories. But realism, liberalism, constructivism, radicalism, those are going to be the main theoretical approaches. And Snyder's at least going to start the conversation. This week in your discussion board, you're really just I just want you to think about what your sort of initial reactions to Snyder's piece are, which arguments you kind of identify the most with. And if I do identify with a particular tradition, what is it about those arguments? You're going to see that each of the approaches or theories to politics makes different assumptions. I would not think about them as theory in the scientific sense. I would think about them more like lenses that color or bias our understanding of how international relations, which is this subfield, right, of political science works, or how international politics works. If you know what they are, you will be aware of a lot of the assumptions that different authors or policymakers make when they're trying to convince you of something. So if I understand, for example, in the realist tradition, there is an assumption that actors are not cooperative, right? That cooperation does not occur very much. The international system is really dangerous, and therefore actors tend not to cooperate with one another. And those arguments sometimes underestimate the ability of actors or states to cooperate. And I'll know that if I am aware that someone is arguing, say, from a realist perspective. And there are other things. There's like sort of packets of beliefs that these lenses in part. And once you become aware of them, you can really understand the arguments that people are making to you much more so than you would before you took the class. I will say that you'll be better at this by modules 3 and 4. We have to do next week in module 2, you're going to trace the history of the state and the state system. Remember at the beginning of this video, I talked about anarchy. And the reason the international system is anarchic is that we load sovereignty. That is, we give exclusive authority to the state, and we will focus on the state as an institution next week. So for this week, read chapter 1 and read the Snyder piece and think about both the ways in which scholars and policymakers, people who practice political science, how they what kind of evidence they use to make arguments, and then also take your initial view using the Jack Snyder one world rivals theory, this initial dive into what their arguments are, what assumptions they make about the way international politics works. And I look forward to seeing your discussion post on that by the end of this module.